what I found is it's not to find out who your ideal client is, you really need to find out who you are, and that takes time.
Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are doing well. For those in the Northeast who are getting ready for a lot of snow, I hope you guys are all prepared, bunkered down, have all the things that you need. Hopefully we don't get that much snow, but then again, sometimes it's nice. So, Rosa Clara, thanks for joining. We're going to have, hey Kate, we're going to have special guest tonight. David is going to be coming on. There he is. And we're going to be talking about sales. I think one of the things that is really important, thinking of obviously 2020, and all of the not so wonderful things about sales that happened in 2020. Hey!
Hey, how are
How are
you?
you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, look at you. It's like Christmas tree and you're all prepared for winter and everything that entails. That's good.
That's right.
It's
Well,
good.
there are a few joys these days, so you have to kind of go all in and really appreciate what you do have. And yeah, we celebrate both Hanukkah and Christmas. I'm my dad's side's Jewish, my mom's side's Christian, and who doesn't love some holiday decor?
I love it. That's awesome. We had DJ Alberto saying hey. DJ Mojo joined.
Hey, what's
Um,
up, guys?
so what for people who don't know who you are, why don't you start out and tell everyone a little bit about kind of your background and how you got started? Because you're a DJ, and I think one of the things that is interesting, I mean, and again, like now it's a little bit different, but I remember, 20 years ago when weddings were very much like out of the box. It was like choice A or choice B. Even DJs were like totally out of the box, and literally somebody showed up and they pressed play, and that was like, voila, we have a wedding DJ. So, I mean, sales now, especially for people who, if they're parents and they are not used to necessarily thinking of kind of all that goes into kind of that whole party that a wedding is entailing.
Sure.
What's that like in terms of your selling process, and then also kind of how you got started with it?
Sure. Well, I think it's easy not to know what goes into a whole wedding, unless you are the one planning it, obviously. And I think it's also easy to kind of not consider everything that goes into DJing, especially if you happen to be at a party where there's a really good DJ, because hopefully he or she is making it look easy, even though there's a lot of years of experience and practice and kind of just musical knowledge acquisition that goes into that. And for me, well, I guess technically that started around 3 years old when I was listening to Michael Jackson and Phil Collins and the Top Gun soundtrack in my living room, and jumping up and down the coffee table. But I say professionally, you could say it began when in Philadelphia when I was in college. I went to Temple University, and I had an internship at a radio station in Philly, Wired 96.5, and worked my way up from an intern to the phone screener to a board op to eventually having a weekly on-air shift. I was one of the weekend DJs, and then I helped produce the morning show. And also at that time, I was working at MTV, which also started from an internship. Working on production, and did get a chance to VJ a few times. That would have been the dream job, the VJ, but that's obviously not a real thing anymore. I might as well want to be Santa Claus. But I just thought that was the coolest thing. I mean, you just become an expert on music. You get to talk to artists and bands and toss to the next video. But it's really interesting. I think the way people consume media has changed, obviously, and so has the way we communicate, and also, therefore, the way that we sell. And so I think about that a lot. during the sales process. So anyway, I started DJing. Actually, I started DJing weddings. A lot of guys that do weddings started out, doing bars and clubs. But I kind of got recruited from one of these big DJ companies in Philadelphia, who was like, hey, we've got a lot of great DJs here, but we can't send half these guys to do weddings because they're terrible on the mic. We hear you on the radio. You're great on the mic. We can teach you how to DJ because it's not hard to match the tempo on 2 songs. But it is hard to read a room and something weird just happens, just when you get a mic in your hand and you're told to make announcements, it's like this weird voice comes out. And so it's not until a lot of practice that you feel more comfortable and natural and yourself. But that was my first kind of foray into DJing and understanding kind of the psychology behind a wedding. And it's not about what you think is the new cool song, and nobody's impressed. Nobody thinks you're clever. Nobody thinks you're funny. You're not there as the cool guy. You're there to entertain everyone. And over the years of doing that, I like to think I kind of found a little bit of a balance between really pandering to the crowd and playing a lot of the tired, worn out songs you hear all the time, and also kind of playing, songs that maybe are a little bit of, unfamiliar throwback that a few people know. Or maybe you're like, oh my God, I haven't heard this song since high school, but you still know all the words. I think, you get more memorable events when you can take those kinds of risks. And you can only take those kinds of risks if you have clients that trust you. And so a lot of the whole sales process, for me, a lot of it is weeding out the clients that aren't a good fit for you. I mean, there are so many people, and I think it's, especially now, it's easy for us to get, kind of have this scarcity mindset, like there's not enough work. But the reality is there's more than enough work. There's more than enough people that are getting married every year in a typical year, that you don't need to be like thirsty for every bride or groom that kind of comes your way. And if you can kind of find more qualified people, you kind of have an easier time doing that. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm just like rambling. I know this was meant to be more of a conversation. You can just interrupt me and be like, hey, this is my show. Take a breath, Krieger.
See, this is where his natural, like, selling DJ, it's just so his whole persona, he just takes over, and he's doing a great job. I mean, I can just sit here and be like, yeah.
So far, so good.
I just tease it. No, you're fine. So I think, I think all of the points that you made were really great because number one, again, all of it. Sometimes I think people compartmentalize sales as this scary thing, or as this like, oh, this is what I do, but then I also have to sell, instead of actually thinking of together, which is exactly what you said. And if you're not aware of who your ideal client is, that's key, because you're then trying to just hard sell. I mean, that, you're like that used car salesman who's like, you drive, right? You need a car.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a car. They don't need a car, but you're trying.
And what I found is it's not to find out who your ideal client is. You really need to find out who you are, and that takes time. I remember when I started my business 5 years ago, the idea of what my ideal client was, is very different, than it was today. And it's much more focused and narrowed. And I'm much more okay with it too. Like if I might not be the right guy, there's some DJs out there that do weddings very, very differently than I do. And their clients love them, like 5-star reviews, like across the board. They're like very personality driven guys. They're on the mic a lot. They're very engaging. They really, they kind of feed energy, kind of through themselves. Whereas I like to kind of like lure people more in. So like kind of a more roundabout approach where you're having a good time and then you're suddenly just dancing and you're like, oh my God, I love all these songs. It's more a feeling that you're compelled to. It's just kind of the way I've always been. I never liked really being kind of the center of attention. type of guy. But figuring out, who you are is really going to help you do that. And then when you go into the meeting, the biggest thing is to be prepared. I think a lot of times people aren't properly preparing for the meeting. You need to do a little bit of background research on who your client is. If you're getting referred this client, try to get some more info from whoever's referring you. If it's a lead from a website or Google, try to Google them. I mean, it's amazing the amount of personal information that is easily and readily available for most people, just on their LinkedIn page. Like, you can find them. A lot of times you can find their Instagram. And, sometimes I'll bring it up. Like, if I find something, I was like, so I'm sure you guys have, doing some research about me. I've actually been stalking you some as well. And I found your LinkedIn page, and they're a little like, oh, that's kind of weird. But they're also like, oh, wow, this guy took enough time to take an interest and to, learn a little bit about us. And now I don't need to ask, what do you do for work? I can say, oh, hey, I see that you're a financial investor. I'm horrible with money. How do you like doing that? Is that an enjoyable job? I'm sure it's lucrative. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Am I right? Don't say that. But the really building rapport is about making other people feel comfortable. And making them feel like they want to talk to you. I mean, so often at the beginning of these calls, people are all kind of like clammed up, and they're like, maybe you're the first call that they've had with a DJ or whatever type of vendor you are. They're like, I don't know what to ask. And sometimes they're like, they just want to get right into it, just get like all about the business. But once people kind of, we have, like, I tell people, this call, these calls typically last about an hour, which I know some planners think is too long. They flat out told me, like, bro, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, my clients don't have an hour to talk to your ass. Like, let's, like, wrap it up, Skippy. And, we find a compromise there. I understand, some clients are busy. Some clients think they're very busy. But also, maybe then they're not the right client for me too, I mean, I've got to make that decision and feel that out as well. Because if I'm going into that wedding and I'm feeling like I have no idea who these people are, I mean, sometimes that can turn out well, but I'm going to have a lot more, I'm not going to perform as well as if I go in and I'm like, all right, I think this is how I'm going to go. Even though very often it goes in a completely different direction than what you're expecting. Like, the couple's like, oh yeah, we love like 90s hip hop. We're all into it. And then you end up playing like 80s, like, I don't know, like sing along, like Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, like stuff the whole night. That's you need to have a lot of music, but letting people kind of talk about the. Was that me or you?
No,
like kind of
it says Mitchell says, I hate that book me now because my calendar is filling up. Shake my head.
Oh, these. Oh, I had a buffer circle. Oh yeah, I guess we should be looking at these, right? What are the people saying? What do people want to know? Let's give the people what they want. Joined. Hello. Cool. All right. What's up, Mitchell? Mitchell's awesome. Mitchell, by the way, is a great example of a guy who is wildly successful and like so smart and just dialed into what he does. He is so different than me. Like, we would have completely different type parties. But hopefully we could, still rock them, just, at equal but I think severity.
I think that's exactly what you're saying, is that, you need to first know you, especially if you are providing a service, not just a product, right? So if you're providing a service, you need to know what type of service you're providing. So, like, what is your specialty? How is it that you're doing that? And then who are those people that are actually going to value that? Because, again, if you don't understand what that is, it's hard to know, like, okay, is a couple really going to be a couple that's going to be happy with what I'm doing and want that for their wedding? If that doesn't reflect them, DJ Mary says Mitchell is the man.
Yeah, see, he's known. People, real ones know DJ Mitchell.
I love it.
Um,
Yeah, but those are
yeah, no,
that if you don't know and you're just listening to the clients and they're saying, just like you said, like, oh, I'm really into, 90s hip hop. And then maybe that's not what they want for their wedding. Like maybe they are into that, but no one else is going to be dancing to that, just the two of them.
so that's what happened actually. And this is just a great example of how, I was just having a conversation with the DJ about this last month, and how there's really no substitute for, because he was really talking about how he trains his guys so thoroughly and they should be able to DJ, just as good as he can. And I said, but you still have way more experience than them. And there's no way that you can just like download your brain into, someone else. But anyway, so at this particular wedding, and I've noticed that this happens a lot, the bride and groom were in their like kind of mid to early 20s, like just out of college for a few years. So, and a lot of the guests at the wedding were their friends that, obviously went to college with. And it had been, a while since they had seen them. So right after dinner, everyone is at the bar, like catching up and doing shots and stuff, because it had not been too long. Like older brides and grooms, like, I don't care about what the hell my college friends are doing anymore. Like, I just want to dance, I want to party, right? But they're like, bro, what's been up? How are you? Oh, I got married. Oh, sweet. And so you say, okay, all right, you guys are there. I'm gonna hold off on the ludicrous, and we're gonna play something for mom right now. Well, Ain't Too Proud to Beg or something.
Well, hey, so DJ Jim just said, do you like playing the YMCA?
Oh, he's baiting me. That's what that is. I don't play the YMCA. Like it's not an option. Like if you want the YMCA, you shouldn't hire me. So one of the things about DJing, I know we're not even talking about sales, but one of the things about DJing is, once you become, pretty experienced, good DJ, you very quickly realize it's not about you. And I play a ton of music that I don't particularly love. It is helpful that I do like a lot of different kinds of music. There's very few genres, if any, that I hate.
So time out. What's your least favorite genre of music?
Well, I guess the least favorite genre, if you call it a genre, it would be like just like real pandering pop. The thing is, I don't like songs that have the dance moves in the lyrics, like telling you what to do. Like the Cupid Shuffle, the Cha-Cha Slide. Like it's like, we get it, we're adults. Like, come on. And I've never, I mean, I remember like 8th grade school dance, and I used to love school dances, man. I did pull on like, I guess Backstreet Boys wasn't out then, but I used to love school dances. But they'd play the YMCA. I'm like, I'm out. I'm leaving the gym. Where's the Mountain Dew? I never liked that. And I feel like, some couples do. And if that's your thing, cool. But I think sometimes it's just lazy DJing. Like if I've got a really hard to read crowd, and maybe I don't know, maybe I didn't prepare enough, maybe I don't know as much music as I would if I were a more experienced DJ, I could say, oh, well, I could play the YMCA and that'll get them out there. And sure, it will, but it won't keep them out there. And then everyone goes and sits down as soon as the YMCA is over, and you've just kind of, I don't know, you haven't really gotten anywhere. But that's just me. That's I know it's not a popular opinion. That's my 2 cents.
But that's good.
About that.
That's kind of that's what we're talking about. We're talking about, when you are closing sales, I think the most important thing is just what you said. If you don't know who you are, you can't identify who it is that's going to be the right couple for you. And then you can't just, again, you're not going to close them. It's going to be really hard because you're not connecting. And millennial couples, Gen Z couples, they want that connection. They don't want this out of the box DJ from, like we talked about, YMCA. It says YMCA is still a hit at the rallies though. Hey, I got nothing for that. That's interesting. Okay. Mitchell says,
you got enough of that.
play a
Jeez Louise.
but
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It's you know, and I can feel it in the call too. Like, you know, and so all right, DJ Jim is saying it's so I have a question on my website on my contact form that asks, how do you feel about the YMCA? It's a multiple choice question. And the options are OMG, so much fun, it's a guilty pleasure, can we not, and this is my nightmare. So obviously, can we not, and this is my nightmare are the correct answers. And even the clients that choose it's a guilty pleasure, even when I kind of explain my philosophy and why I don't play it, they're like, oh yeah, no, that's what we want. They generally don't end up booking me. It's like, don't feel bad for the things you like. It's your wedding. If that's what you want, like, it's cool, it's okay. But you know, finding the you know, it's interesting. You say about the Gen Z and the millennial couples. The thing that's interesting about them now, and this is why the sales process is so important, because like older people, they're used to like the salesman who's gonna give you his pitch, and they say, "All right, salesman, tell me what you got." And you know, this idea of like, you know, 12 white guys sitting at a board table and just like hearing your pitch, like, all right, what do you have? And then you just like vomit all of your information, and then you just walk out of the room, and then you just hope that they liked the vomit that you happen to have with you that day. And that is just not cutting it with Gen Z millennials. They are, first of all, they're like, I don't want you to tell me. I'm going to tell you what I want, because I've already gone online, done all the research, read the reviews, checked the Amazon reports, and so I know I'm the expert now because I've done 10 minutes of research, so I'm an expert on the subject. And so, you know, sometimes it's, what was that? What did you say?
watched a YouTube video about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, YouTube tells you all you need to know. You watch a 30-minute YouTube and you can bypass years of professional education.
Exactly. DJ Nestor says, do you think anyone can be a DJ?
Well, I guess that depends on, I mean, in just a DJ and a loose interpretation, yeah, I think anyone can be a DJ. You know, being a good DJ is, at the end of the day, the question is, did you rock the party? Did you play the songs that caused people to have a good time? And however you do that, with whatever equipment, whatever fashion, you know, and everyone can, you know, have their judgments about it. And obviously I've got my judgments, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I think. It matters what the people at that party think. The biggest thing about being a good DJ is choosing the right songs and playing them in the right order and playing them for the right crowd. And that's the biggest thing between a DJ and, you know, Pandora. Pandora can play the right songs in the right order, but if you just put a Pandora station on a party, trust me, you're going to get something where you're like, whoa, what the hell is this? And you're going to run over to thumbs down it. That's why you hire a DJ, because there's a time and a place for a lot of music. But, you know, I would say what we think of generally as a DJing is, you know, someone who can blend two records together. That obviously comes with a little more practice, a little more skill. And, you know, music is just a whole different type of intelligence. And some people are like born with like perfect pitch. I am not one of those people. And they are just like natural prodigy musicians and just can pick up any instrument. They're like, you know. I know how to play the saxophone. I know a few chords on the piano. I'm fortunate enough that I would say I have a pretty good grasp on like musical concepts, but I'm not like, I mean, if I were, then I would be like playing in the LA Philharmonic Orchestra or something right now, right? First chair violin.
But that's not the case.
No, I never practiced enough for that. I think because I have ADD, because there's always something that I would rather be doing. And it wasn't that I hated practicing the saxophone. It was just, there was always like, I would rather be like watching X-Men or something, you know?
Exactly.
And those were classics. X-Men, did you watch X-Men when you were, no? What was your after school cartoon? Let's talk about you.
So I'm old. So we watched things like He-Man and
Like what?
He-Man and She-Ra, like
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He-Man. I had He-Man, Masters of the Universe.
yeah, we would watch stuff like that. And that was if we got to watch TV. Usually we would be outside. Like there wasn't
Oh,
no. Yeah, we were like, we went
I remember outside.
some good
Those were the days.
good memories there. Yeah. But I think exactly what you were saying, like even to your point of not practicing the saxophone, it's everybody. It doesn't matter if it's you, me, if it's a couple that we're talking about. You know, everybody has preferences. Everyone has things that they would. It's not that they don't like the YMCA, like they could probably tolerate it at somebody else's wedding, but it might not be what they want at their wedding. And so if those aren't things that you are, number one, aware of, and you haven't thought to ask your couple that, it's going to be hard because you know nothing about them to understand if you're the right fit. Because if you are, it's just kind of a natural thing. Like you don't have to sell them. It's not a hard sell. It's not, you know.
And that's kind of how it all kind of comes full circle, because if it's not a pitch and instead it's just a conversation, then you're not building up to an eventual close. You just have to know how you're going to end the conversation. And a lot of times I will ask something like once I feel like we've covered everything and we've been talking maybe for like 45 minutes. I'd be like, so what do you guys think? And see what they have to say. And sometimes they'll be like, yeah, it's great. Yeah, okay. And they're like, all right, I'm not going to hear from you again. That's fine. But sometimes they're like, yes, like, and you can tell. And so they're like, okay, so now it's not like a close. Now it's, here are the next steps.
Right.
And so a couple techniques, if you do find that your conversation has not evolved so organically. Which, by the way, if at any point in the conversation that you feel like you're losing them a little bit, you can always go back to like bonding and rapport. Talk about something that is non-related to what you're talking about. I mean, even if it's something else with the wedding, even if it's just whatever, like, oh, hey, I thought about this, shake it up a little bit, because otherwise if you keep kind of hammering away on what you want them to hear, they're going to hear it less, and they're just going to like start to just glaze over and zone out, and you're just going to be then, kind of wasting both of your times. So really make sure that you really take an interest in their lives, really, let them know that you want to, kind of understand them more as people, to know what's important to them. A question I ask a lot of times is, how will you know if this wedding is a success? How are you measuring it? Like, how will you know if it was, if everything, went the way you wanted it to? Or like, why?
Especially for a DJ, because you guys are generally near the end of the night. So
Yeah.
that's still like how they're feeling when they leave. Like when guests leave, when like, it's
Yeah.
like, it's usually not like, the other way around, like something else happens. It's like, so that is, I think that's a great question, especially for DJs, is to understand, what is that feeling? What do they want essentially to create for that experience? And it goes through that journey for them.
Yeah. A question I ask almost every call is, what do you want your guests saying to each other and to you at the end of the night? And it kind of forces them now to like picture themselves. All right, it's the end of our night, it's the end of the wedding. The lights are coming up, the music's off, everyone's leaving. What are they saying? What are they thinking? Like, oh my God, this wedding had the best flowers you've ever seen? No, probably not. Sorry, florists. I love florists. But that's the thing, is that, and that's why.
I'm putting in the caption.
What's that?
When we post this on our putting in the caption, David hates florists, and he says, "Too bad, because you don't count." So
yeah, I believe those were my exact words. I appreciate you not misquoting me. Thank you, Megan. No, but for real though, it kind of goes to the point where that's why it's so important to build that relationship, because unlike a florist, I can't show you a picture of what I do and you like, this is how great I look in headphones. Here's another one of me in headphones. Here's one of me behind a laptop. Oh my God, look at him behind that. I've never seen anyone behind a laptop look like that before. He's the one for us. No, it doesn't work that way. But you can look at flowers and be like, damn, those flowers are banging, right? You can go to the florist, actually see the flowers. You're like, oh, yeah, these are the ones for us. Like, no one has smelled me at a client meeting before, you know? Or if they have, they've been polite enough not to say anything. And sometimes I'll say, like, you know how you knew that you were, you know, like that you were right for you and you were right for you, like, you just like a feeling, right? You just have to know. That's kind of how this works. Obviously, it's not quite on the same scale. You know, we're not lifelong partners, but you should just kind of have a feeling, like, yeah, this is the guy. We trust this guy with this party. He gets it. He knows what we want out of the party, out of that event. And if you can come to that mutual conclusion through a conversation, it's going to be a lot easier at the end. Here's the thing about florists, though. I will say, I have been published, not to brag, but just to make a point. I have been featured in Martha Stewart and Brides on their Instagram page, which very few DJs, they don't even credit. I actually have messaged them, be like, hey, so how come you don't credit entertainment in any of your posts ever? Like, I'm not going to get into this story. I'm going to sound like a crazy person if I tell you this.
Oh my goodness. Come on, David. You got to finish it.
Okay, so the point is that I've let it be known that these magazine publishers who say that they really want to convey the experience. You know, we don't just want like pictures of dresses and flowers. Like, we get it. Like, we want the experience. Like, really, like, show us the experience. And so I'm like, hey, how come the entertainment isn't part of the experience? Like, I would argue that that's like, I don't know, at least 80% of the experience, maybe. I'm sure some would disagree with me on that figure, but it's pretty, literally my job is to control how people are feeling at the wedding. That's literally my job. And so I really campaigned for more credit for bands and DJs in the publication. And the only reason that I had a photo in there is because the florist was kind enough to put these beautiful flowers at this wedding, and they posted how good looking this DJ booth is. And that's why it was. Nothing to do with my DJing at all. So it also kind of reminds you how in 15 years, things have changed a lot, and it's much more, you know, we think with our eyes even more so than we used to, which obviously we've always thought with our eyes, unless you're Stevie Wonder. He obviously doesn't think with his eyes. But so you're thinking about, like, what does my dance floor look like? What does my DJ look like? You're not thinking about, like, how am I feeling when I'm like, oh my God, it's this song. Like when I'm at my favorite concert and you just feel like, you know, God's opened up the clouds and be like, this one's for you, you know? That's a hard thing to put into an Instagram photo, you know? So I think as a DJ, and I would argue really anyone, I mean, most other parts of a wedding are a little more, you know, visually centered. So you have a lot more to post pictures of, but you know, it's gonna be more important to show people, look, this is what I look like. This is my setup. This is how it looks when I DJ. And maybe take a little more consideration into what that actually looks like, and make sure that, you know, it's, you know, decent and representative, because it's kind of unfortunate because, you know, a lot of us DJs take a lot of pride in what we do, and the thought that whether or not a client is going to book us may hinge on how pretty our DJ booth is, can be frustrating. But I guess at the end of the day, if you're a good DJ and you know you're a good DJ and you're like, look, this is what I have to do just to, you know, kind of make everybody happy and get the picture published, and you're still a good DJ, then, you know, like at the ends justify the means or whatever, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like putting, you know, putting a great present in a good, like, wrapping, like a good package. Like, you have to understand that, like, clearly most people are probably not looking at you or smelling you or, you know, anything like that. They're just dancing, hopefully. They're just enjoying everything that's going on.
Hopefully.
But
I'm trying to think. I've probably been smelled at least once or twice.
there should be
Nothing really stands out.
like documentation of people smelling the DJ. That's really, that would be.
I'll have my assistant start writing that down. So you're going to write requests, and then anytime someone comes to smell me, yeah.
Exactly. Give that to all your photographers and be like, this
Uh-huh.
is sort of like the photo lit, like this is what we need for the shot list. So smelling the
Yeah.
Yeah, that's key. But to the point of, you know, photos are going to be taken. If you're going to be somewhere in there, and especially if you want to use any of those photos for your website or social media or anything like that, you want it to look as professional and pretty as possible. So those are things I know that some DJs that we've talked to, one of the things that they were saying is like, it's a big investment. They've had things custom made, and, you know, really kind of figuring out what's going to be best for that particular wedding. Because again, some weddings are going to have a different type of aesthetic. So if your DJ booth that you have and it's custom made, it only kind of works with one type of aesthetic, you know, that's not going to be helpful for maybe a couple that, you know, they're not doing like a boho wedding. They're doing something that's a little bit more, you know, simplistic or modern. And if you don't have something that works with that, that could really, that could be an issue.
And it is an investment. And, you know, and I wouldn't, you know, tell any DJ to go run out and get some, you know, custom made, you know, very specific looking, you know, piece of, like, I don't personally own anything, which is good because I was robbed again last year. So they would have taken, well, I don't know, you probably wouldn't take it furniture. They took all the DJ gear. But anyway, yeah, 2020, right? What I would say to do is, it could be an upcharge as a DJ if someone, you know, you can kind of sell it like, hey, for this, and then you can go and order one from a rental company, you know, especially a lot of times, if it's going to be like maybe a wedding at a really nice venue, or maybe with a photographer that I know is going to get some really great pictures, then I'll say, well, I have the opportunity to get some free professional photos at this wedding, which has some good marketing value. So maybe, and they're already getting a rental company, so I'll call up the rental company and be like, hey, can you throw an extra bar onto the order, and I'll just pay you separately for that? Because a bar is maybe like $300, $500, $800, depending on, you know, how fancy you want it. And so now, and it can be like, hey, because I love you guys so much, I decided to upgrade my setup. So, you know, I'm going to go ahead and pay. And they'll be like, oh my God, he's like so cool, he's the best. But really, you just made the investment for better pictures and, you know, say the photography, make sure you get some pictures of me. Do make sure you say that, because there are a surprisingly number of photographers who will just not think to get any pictures of you at all through the night. So sometimes you do have to specifically ask. But,
well, and I think that's part of making sure that, you know, as a business, as not just a DJ or a floor or whatever you are, is understanding that you're working this wedding. It's a team effort. And so if you haven't already introduced yourself to that photographer or the florist whom you love so much, you know, those are things that you want to do in advance so that you can be able to say like, hey, you know, I'm really looking forward to working this wedding with you. I'd love it if you could get some shots of because I'd love to be able to post those on my social and tag you. Like that's cross promotion for them too. Understand, like those are things that if you're like, hey, this is something that I want to work with you again. I love your work. I think it's great. I think we have the same type of couple. I'd love to be able to refer client. Like this is a relationship that, again, you know, on a vendor side that can be advantageous to you. It's just good business. And so,
well, kind of along those lines, I mean, I would say anytime that you want to get something from another vendor, whatever it is, whether it's a photograph or Maybe some. I will say I've taken home some very nice bouquets at the end of the night because they're just gonna throw them away otherwise. And it makes for a very happy girlfriend. So it would be like he hates florists. But
No,
here's the thing. Okay, how can I make the photographer's job easier? If I go up to you and be like, hey, so I just want to know, like, where do you think we should have toasts? Because it doesn't really matter to me. But I know you're gonna probably like want like a particular shot. So, I would prefer them not to be right in front of a speaker because people usually don't know how to hold a microphone and then you get feedback. But both of them are like, oh wow, like no one's ever asked me that before. You'd be like, okay, we just want to go over the timeline. I'll make sure that you're in the room, or if you're not, I'll come find you. Or I'll give you a heads up before we do anything like first dance, because a lot of times photographers need to change their lens when they're going from one thing to another, or set up a light, or and if you're on the microphone, just bulldozing ahead, introducing the next thing, and they're like in the other room, like thinking like, oh God, I've already worked for 8 hours today. I'm just gonna like take a sip of water, and you're like, all right, we're gonna now do something else. And they're like, oh, fuck this guy. You're gonna probably have a harder time asking for photos from that photographer than if you were more proactive and empathetic to what goes into their job.
no,
So yeah.
it's playing nice in the sandbox is important, and it does get you further than just kind of bulldozing ahead. And I mean, we've all seen it. We've all been at weddings where it's like the rogue vendor who decides to just kind of like do their own thing, and like everyone else is like, what's cool, like and then they're like trying to like hurry up to finish and do something else and like catch up. And
people are like savage. Okay, not to be obsessed with florists, but I literally had a florist push me before because I asked her to move her like she's setting up, she's arranging the flowers, and she's spread all over the place. There's like nowhere to like push a cart through. And so, usually when I first arrive at the venue, I just like kind of do like, like recon, like see what's what. So it's like, hey, we're actually gonna be moving a big cart in here in a few minutes. So, do you need any help moving this stuff? Like, okay, cool. And so moving the cart in, and there's like no space. I'm like, hey, can we, get through here? And so she moves it, and so there's like half enough. It's still not enough space. So I'm like, I don't want to be like belaboring the point here, but it's a pretty simple request that you're not seeming to get. And I guess the third time she didn't like. She's just like, oh, like I don't even remember what she said, but she literally pushed me, and I think I screamed at her and I cursed at her and I told her not to no, it was I was a little surprised, but that's the thing, with weddings, like most people don't think about this either. You go to a 9-to-5 job, you see the same people every day. We go to work, we don't know who we're going to be working with that day. Hopefully it's someone who we know and we're happy to see, but it could be someone who's a complete idiot and has been lying and has never done a wedding before, and all they've done are like corporate events for their neighborhood, welcome wagon, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm a planner, and you're like, look, just be honest, like if you're not a planner, like I'll help you, like we'll get through this, but yeah, you never really know what you're walking into sometimes. That's why preparation is so important, obviously before the wedding, but also, before the sales call, because the more prepared you are, then the more confident that you're going to be. And that's everything, if you look like you got it together and that you know what you're doing, everyone's going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, everything's fine. He knows what he's doing. But if you look like panicked and you're like scrambling and you don't know what's, going on, then it's going to show. And especially as the DJ, you're like, in some ways the face of the party. You need to have that, be able to maintain that composure. Although challenging as it may be, sometimes.
Absolutely. And you know who always looks good? And she just joined? Terica.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
What's up, Terica?
And Amber was given lots of love. Amber Horn. So,
hey, Amber. Oh, Amber, what's up? Oh, man, look at all these people joining. Hey, what's up, everyone? I hadn't been watching it for a minute. Cool. I'm glad people are tuning in, checking it out. I feel like we got like so off the sales topic, and I apologize if I got off on too many tangents.
This is honestly, I think one of the things that, and I think I told you this before, one of the things that this is all about is conversation. And I think sometimes people don't understand that, you know, you can say like, oh, I really needed to brush up on my sales, when in fact it's just that you don't know who you are, what you're providing, and who your ideal client is, because then you can't connect. And those sales are really hard. So then you're like, oh, maybe it's the sales. No, it's really the fact that you don't know what you're doing as a business and who you're serving, because then you're literally trying to push something on someone who's like, yeah, I don't think I want that. And yeah, like, oh, really, let me hold on. I'm just gonna look up like a new tactic, and you're gonna say yes and give me the the money. That's not the case.
Well, I will say this. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't kind of share some tips that I have used in the past. If you're really like, you have like a closing phobia. So one way to avoid it is to kind of just address it. You know, at the end of your call, hopefully it doesn't feel too much like a presentation. You know, you just say, well, this isn't, this isn't a car transaction. I'm not going to ask you, what it's going to take for you to, sign this contract today. I'm going to give you guys a week to think it over. And so then that's cool. And then you say, can we set up a follow-up appointment after you've had some time to look at everything? And maybe they'll ghost you, maybe they'll cancel the appointment, and maybe they won't need the appointment because they will have signed the contract before then. That happens a lot too. But now it's not like, what's your decision? What's it going to be? If you feel more comfortable and you do want to, try to go in for more of a firm commitment, and that's your personality, cool. But obviously that's not, kind of what we're talking about on this call here. And the other thing about that is, if you really if you book these clients just because you close the shit out of them, maybe they're really not the best clients. Maybe they're just, good, easily closable, susceptible customers. And sure, you'll have, your bookings, but that's not going to be as fulfilling for you as someone who doesn't need to be persuaded and is like, no, you know what? You're the guy. I don't need to be sold.
I don't need the YMCA.
Don't need the YMCA. I mean, who needs the YMCA? Let's be honest. Here's the thing, though. There are think about how many songs are out there. Songs that were made, that have been recorded, and that exist. There's a lot. So many songs. And why, really, we need, there's nothing better than the YMCA. Come on. I'm sorry.
So then I have a question for you then. We have 7 minutes. Yeah, we have 7 minutes. So I have a question. They kick us off an hour. So,
oh, yeah.
If not and oftentimes I know that the YMCA is requested because there might be a lot of older individuals at the party who want to dance, and there's very limited number of songs that they would be willing to get out of their seat for, take their walker to the dance floor. And so what are alternative songs to the YMCA that you would play for older individuals, even older than me, who would not necessarily dance to other songs that maybe the couple or their friends would want to dance to?
Okay, so see, this is where the non-lazy DJing comes in, because there is not one song that is just a one-size-fits-all turkey. Because if there were, then what would you need to hire me for? Just put on the Spotify playlist and bada bing, bada boom.
No, but it's
and people would have
older people. So Terica says, take the walker. That's what I'm talking about. They need their walker, and they're gonna
That's impressive.
Yeah. So, are there certain songs or certain genres or types of songs that you're
Yeah, there's tons of. I mean,
older.
So One of the things that I think about when I'm looking at people is like, what year was it when you were probably 13 years old, 16 years old, and 21 years old? Because this is like, obviously, these are the most dynamic, formative years of your life. There is more happening in these years than anything, and you are learning so many things for the first time. And when your brain learns something new, it produces dopamine, and you get this feeling like, oh, wow, like, cool, I just learned something, right? And and when you have a lot of dopamine in your brain, it will convert to long-term memories. So these formative moments of your life, you know, like school dances, when you were the first time you were driving around in your car, you know, parties that you went to, you know, when you were, you know, drinking and concerts and things like that. Those are going to be the songs that you're going to remember. So, okay, so what year was that? Was that 1998? Was that 1988? Was that 1972? Was that 1960? Was that 1955? Was that 1940? Probably not so much 30s and 40s, but if you want to hear some old, like, Charleston Foxtrot, you know, like, we can go there. You know, I haven't, you know, aside from, like, the Gatsby-themed parties, which, can we just stop with the, I mean, I'm worried that now that it's the 20s, it's the 20s. It's like, no, we did that for the past 10 years. Like, we can't do it for another 10. We get it. We get it, right? They were roaring, okay? But you need to know a lot. But you don't need to know all the music. You need to be like an inch deep but a mile wide. So you need to know, like, the hits and the different types of hits, you know? Maybe it's not going to be Elvis Presley or Chevy Chucker or, you know, Dion. Maybe it's going to be like Diamante, you know, I'm going to play like cumbias and old salsa. It's going to be like Celia Cruz or something, you know? I could play like La Carnival or Escandalo and get like all those old people you're talking about in Spanish. It's all like, it's like they just boom, they just come like escandalo, boom. But I play it like for white people, like, what the f is this, you know? But you play like, you know, like Brown Eyed Girl, they're like, oh, this is my jam, you know, or like Sweet Home Alabama or something. Sweet Home Alabama, that's a little bit more on the pandering side. I don't like to play that too much. It's like Bob Seger, old time rock and roll, like, we get it. Songs that are a little too on the nose, like Celebration, like Play That Funky Music, White Boy, like, oh wow, so kidding because you're white and you're playing funky music. It's like, come on, do better. Every crowd is different, and you kind of need to know. You need to know who you're going to see when you go into it. But you know, if you're experienced, then hopefully you've seen it before. So whatever you're encountering, you're going to be ready for it. And if you're not, then you just bullshit your way through it until you get to the next one. And then you can, and then when you're like, oh yeah, then you're not actually lying. You know, like DJs are for the first like 1 to 3 years of DJing.
Targa, you just made me laugh. You're hilarious.
Azúcar. Uh-huh.
All right, we got 2 minutes left. So thoughts.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I hope that I was a good guest. I know that I was kind of went off topic a little bit. And I even took my medication today. I was really like, no, I'm going to be focused for Megan. This is going to be a good one. But I'm so grateful that you thought of me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, for those of you who were hoping to go to our Bridal Masterclass experience in LA, so David was supposed to be there, but of course, you know, because of Corona. Terica says this is why you hire a pro DJ. It's so much more than just pressing play. Reading art, totally. And I mean, and again, going back to sales,
she can be a DJ. Terica, she gets some people just get it. You know, some people just get it.
Oh
some people.
Terica could pretty much do anything. Like, I'm pretty confident that we could just give her anything like to do, and she would smash it.
Yeah, she's pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming and sharing all these tips. And again, It really is, and clearly you've mastered it, which is great because it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. So really thinking about, who it is that you are, who you want to attract, and then closing isn't so much about sales tactics. It's really just about that connection. Aw, Terica, we love you.
Winding up the conversation. Oh, thanks.
Terica. All right. Well, they're gonna kick us off because that's
all right.
But this is going to be, if you guys missed the beginning, we're going to have it on our IGTV and also posting it on our feeds. You guys can rewatch it from the beginning. Lots of great fun, and make sure that you rewind and watch the whole thing so that you understand why David loves florists. He loves florists. So
well, I don't know. I mean, if you want to put that, I will say, if you put that I hate them, that's definitely more clickbait. So listen, I won't be mad. You can tell him about this. Knew it. I've always hated him. It's fine. I'm a punching bag. No worries.
Listen, if you go back through like every single one of our lives, it's like we're always like there's always these random conversation tangents that we go on, and somehow it makes its way in, and everyone who reads the caption then obviously needs to.
I really appreciate you having me. I feel like very cathartic right now. Like I've gotten like so much off my chest that I didn't realize I needed to for like the past like 10 months apparently. I guess probably people get really sick of hearing me at networking events. They're like, yeah, Krieger, we've heard this story before. Like, okay. But now I just unloaded on you and all of the Instagram viewers. So thanks, Instagram.
I love
Better than drugs. The bridal masterclass videos are better than drugs.
That's right.
You can put that in the caption. How you doing?
Going to. That's going in the caption for sure.
All right.
All right. Well, have a great night and happy.
Thank you. You too.
And,
you too.
And everyone, stay safe. And I'm not sure if we're gonna do a live next week, guys, just because it's the holidays and Christmas and everything.
Take a week off. You deserve it.
I think we're gonna come back in 2021, but we'll definitely have some more tips and things that we'll be posting on our regular feed. So we'll see you guys next year. Awesome.
Bye guys.
Bye.